Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Liz Luskin, President of Long Island City Partnership. While we're waiting for everyone to log in, we have over 300 people signed up, so a little bit of a traffic jam. I want to draw your attention to some features of the event. A digital copy of the event program and newly released LIC brochure can be found in the handout feature of your control panel. Thank you to all our sponsors and attendees for generously funding this event and our important work that we do in the community. Visit licqns.com/RED2020 to view our sponsor materials by clicking with their logos. For everyone else, while we did make it free to attend, we would greatly appreciate your donations to help fund our work and events like this. And thank you to all who have done so already. If you're having technical issues, please visit lic.com/troubleshoot or email Yang at YHUANG@licpartnership.org. So again, we're going to wait just a few more minutes. Please peruse the program and other items. And we will get started around 9:02. Again, if you're just joining us, everyone is muted, and there are the program is in the handouts feature on the side, and if you're having technical issues, you can visit licqns.com/troubleshoot or email Yang. Her email is on the screen. Okay, we are getting ready to start. Again, you can review the sponsor materials at the sponsor booth. And thank you to all who've donated. And if you feel like doing so in lieu of a ticket, we would appreciate it at the link here. And we're getting up there. Folks are getting in. Again, we're just waiting for everybody to join. We have a very full house today and a great panel. And I think we're just about ready. Carla, I think we should kick it off. Okay, so we're ready to begin. Thank you again. I'm Liz Luskin, President of the Long Island City Partnership. Thank you for joining us for our 15th annual real estate breakfast. Although this has been a challenging year for all of us, we are so happy to have this opportunity to have attendees from LIC, from the city as a whole, from the state, the country, and some overseas as well. A few housekeeping items. All attendees are muted throughout this recorded webinar. A digital copy of the event program with lots of great information and speaker bios and our new released LIC brochure can be found in the handout feature of your control panel on the right. We'll begin today with a brief introduction to LICP and LIC, followed by our panel and then Q&A to introduce your pre-submitted and live questions. You can submit them now and throughout the session in the questions box on your screen. If you don't see the box, check your control panel in the upper right-hand corner and make sure you click the drop-down arrow to open the questions box. We'll try to get to as many of them today as possible. You will also have the opportunity to connect with our speakers, sponsors, event partners, and give us some feedback through the poll feature, which will pop up a few times during the event. Don't panic, but please do answer the questions. For example, our first poll question, have you attended the real estate breakfast in previous years? So if you would please answer the question, and this is what it's going to look like each time. We just have a few poll questions. This is what it's going to look like. Okay. And now to the program. I want to give a special thank you to our members and boards, including LICP Chair Patricia Dempsey and LIC Bid Chair David Brause, for their support and attendance. I also want to thank our community partners here today, including Tom Gretsch, the President and CEO of the Queen's Chamber, Seth Bornstein, the President of QEDC, Lisa Della, the Chair of CBT, and many colleagues from our elected officials' offices and partner city agencies. For those who aren't members, please consider joining today. I'm also proud and grateful to acknowledge our generous sponsors. for making our work and this event and others possible. Please remember to visit the sponsor booths for more information on these great companies and their current activities. So a special thank you to our premier sponsors, which you can read on the screen and in the panel, in the program. Also our platinum sponsors and our gold, bronze, and media sponsors. Thank you so much. And please let us know through the next poll who you would like to be connected with. And as we're going through the poll and we're getting ready for our next slide, I want to do a thank you also to our event partners, who you'll see on the next slide. Although a downside of this format is we can't enjoy their wonderful treats together now in person, our generous event partners are providing exciting raffle items so that you can taste them at another time. One of our today's panelists, Coffee Project New York, will choose 4 winners to receive a ticket to their intensive barista class in Long Island City. Board member Lady M Confections, headquartered in Long Island City but operating around the world, is providing 2 prizes: the Slice is the Best Cake, their most popular cake of the summer, and the 2020 Mooncake Lantern Cake Extravaganza, which they launched and just sold out 40,000 units in Asia in less than a week. And board member Newman's Kitchen has a $200 catering package for breakfast or lunch. Newman's Kitchen is a family-owned premier special event and corporate caterer in both New York City and Philadelphia. So please enter the poll now for which raffles, and you can enter all of them. And thank you to our generous event sponsors. And good luck to all the winners. Okay. Thank you. And now on to us, the Long Island City Partnership. As I hope you know, the Long Island City Partnership is honored to be the local development corporation for the LIC area, a roughly 3 square mile city within New York City. We have a wide range of services, as you can see. We celebrated our 40th anniversary in the community around this time last year, and we're here to serve you in whatever way we can. So please reach out to our terrific staff members, all of whom are working hard in the background right now to produce this event. Our work shifted as of this spring, as I'm sure it did for everyone here, to include COVID response. We're providing business assistance on the ground and virtually. We are an up-to-date COVID-19 information resource for information through our e-blast and online. Be sure to check out our COVID-19 resource pages, our open business map, so you can be sure to patronize all the open businesses and directory, and our LIC local signage when in the area. Long Island City, just a quick refresher. We are the geographic center of New York City, accessible to the city, the region, and the world, just 5 minutes from Grand Central by subway and 15 minutes from LaGuardia by car. We are also a truly mixed-use live-work neighborhood and home to the longest continually operating industrial zone in the country. You'll find everything here from advanced manufacturing, film and television, life sciences, culinary arts, artists, designers, and a wide variety of tech, as well as cultural, social service, and educational institutions, and a highly diverse residential community. I don't have time to go into all the information in the digital materials or on our website, but for example, our newly released LIC brochure, again, you can access that in the handout section. It provides a lively and efficient introduction to our mixed meat neighborhood. We also, in your digital program, you can learn more about LIC's metamorphosis in the last 10 years through our 10-year snapshot. For example, in the last 10 years, both LIC jobs and residents increased more than 2 times faster than New York City overall. And a special 2-page update of the ways our neighborhood has responded to the COVID-19 crisis and where we stand today. For example, neighborhood manufacturers have been creating ventilators, face shields, masks, and much more. So please check out that information and those resources. But just to make all these statistics visual, LIC, on the right here are 2 pictures. One is LIC roughly 10 years ago, seen from the Brooklyn Grange rooftop farm at the top of the Standard Motors Products Building on Northern Boulevard, and this is a view now from the same location. Not only do you see a lot of development, we've added approximately 50 million square feet in the last 10 years, and you're going to see a lot of development and increased square footage, but in this picture you also have buildings that contain commercial, residential, and hotel tenants along manufacturing and industrial uses. All of this and more is at our newly updated website, licqns.com, including our new life sciences portal, a very rapidly expanding sector in the area, our new member portal with enhanced mapping and data features, and up-to-date information, downloadable reports, interactive maps, and much more. Before we introduce our panel, we have two additional substantive polls that we would appreciate your answering. The first, what is the most important factor, in your opinion, for LIC's post-COVID future success? You have 5 options there. Please select one of the following. And we will show the results of this poll as well. Very interesting. The mixed-use community wins out. On our next poll, how do you think LIC is positioned to recover post-COVID compared to other parts of the city? And your options are better, same, or worse. Okay. And we'll just see the results quickly. Terrific. Well, that's very optimistic. Thank you. It is now my great pleasure to introduce our moderator for the panel today, and for all 14 of the previous real estate practice, David Brause. David is the president of Brause Realty and the LIC Business Improvement District Chair. David also owns, among other properties, the famous JetBlue office building on Queens Plaza, where Estee Lauder, one of our panelists, is also a tenant, and recently developed the Forge residential rental building on Purvis Street. As a reminder, you can find the speaker bios and more information in the program, but now I will let David take it away. David and the panel.
Thank you, Liz. Panelists, this is a good time to turn on your video. All right. I'm a little sad that we weren't allowed to enter the raffle. I was kind of excited about getting the free coffee for life from some. So I would love to thank you, Liz, of course, and the amazing staff at Long Island City Partnership, at Long Island City Bid, especially Carla, for making this event such a success and for keeping our neighborhood so vibrant. Seeing the Bid's flowers blooming in the midst of a pandemic as we walk down the streets always has put a smile on my face these last 6 months. This is our 15th annual, not last, real estate breakfast. And what a year it has been since our last one. The COVID pandemic has wreaked havoc all over the world with a terrible spring in New York. Presidential election year shows how divided our country has become. Protests and rioting tear across the country after the horrible death of George Floyd in Minneapolis. Wildfires destroy large swaths of California and Oregon. And Google announced that all employees should stay home until July of 2021. On the good news real estate front, however, Amazon bought the Lord & Taylor building as a future office for 2,000 workers. Facebook leased the entire Farley post office. TikTok leased a large block in Times Square, and JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs recently announced that employees are expected to return to the office by September 21st. So what the heck is going on in the real estate market right now? More importantly for this crowd, what's going on in Long Island City? Today, we're very lucky to have an excellent panel who represents a great cross-section in Long Island City real estate interests who can shed some light on what is going on in our neighborhood. My panelists include, alphabetically, Jordan Barowitz, the Durst Organization Vice President of Public Affairs, Any Goodfriend, the Estee Lauder Company's Director of Global Real Estate Transactions, Ngai, Coffee Project co-founder, and Peter Papamichael, the Vorea Group principal. Let's start by asking each of you to introduce yourself, give a brief overview of your business and of your real estate projects in Long Island City. Let's start with Jordan.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I work for the Durst Organization, which is a 105-year-old owner, developer, and manager of Class A Manhattan office space and residential buildings. Historically, the company was focused on Midtown commercial skyscrapers. In the last 15 years, we've branched out and now own and operate about 2,500 units of residential rental housing. In the last 5 or 6 years, we've expanded to Western Queens. First at Hallett's Point in Astoria, where we have a 7-building, 2,000 unit project underway. Our first building opened up about a year ago, and more recently in Long Island City at Spen, which you can see in the middle of the slide below. Spen is a 958 unit mixed income 70/30 rental building. It's 738 feet tall. It's an imposing figure on the Long Island City and New York City skyline, and we hope to open it up at the beginning, at the end of 2021.
Good, thanks, Jordan. Let's move on to Henry.
Hey, hello and good morning. Glad to be here. I'm Henry Goodfriend, and I head the real estate transaction process, non-retail, for the global real estate portfolio of the Estee Lauder companies. As many of you know, Estee Lauder is one of the world's leading manufacturers and marketers of quality skincare, makeup, fragrance, and hair products sold in 150 countries. Net sales of $15 billion. Interesting fact is that our company's 84% female workforce. It was founded in 1946. We began our global expansion in 1960. So I work closely with senior leadership and our internal resources of various functions and our 30+ brands, which include among them Aveda, MAC, Clinique, La Mer, Bobby Brown, Darphin, Joe Malone, to name a few, which are all internal clients of mine, to help them implement a strategy for the acquisition and disposition of leased or owned properties worldwide, and for negotiations for our extensive portfolio of office, manufacturing, R&D, supply chain facilities across the Americas, EMEA, and APAC. So I rarely sleep. As further background, I was on the real estate services side for many years, and Estee Lauder was a client of mine, and then I had an opportunity to come on board with them. And because one of the attractions was their global nature, and I've worked in about 60 countries. So I accepted that challenge about 3.5 years ago, and immediately thereafter became involved with the Long Island City project, where we have signed 3 leases at David's building, 1 QPN, for 254,000 square feet long term. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Let's move on to Sum.
Hey everyone, my name is Sum. I am the co-founder of Coffee Project New York. In 2015, we started a cafe, sort of like a mom and pop place in East Village, and just serving coffee, pastry. It's really tiny, about 300 square feet. 8 years later, we grew a little bit, and then we started venturing out. Now we have a couple locations of coffee shops around the city. Our latest addition to the project is actually our academy and our roastery in Long Island City. It's about 4,000 square feet, where us being the only specialty coffee association certified campus in New York State. So we have people from around the world, across the USA, to come here and get certified, doing coffee, not just as a barista, but like sensory taster. We also have training lab for people who compete. So 2 of our baristas is actually US Brewers Cup top 10. And moving forward, we're just going to be roasting a lot in Long Island City and started packaging our coffee and doing a lot more work in the coffee industry.
Good, very tasty. Peter, come around to you.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you for the intro, David and Liz, also for all the work you do for us here in Long Island City. So I'm the principal and founder of the Vorea Group. We are a real estate development company, primarily, with like a 3-pronged approach to real estate. First would be we're pride ourselves as being a neighborhood developer, thesis-based. We're very focused on the markets and neighborhoods that we invest in and really try to kind of complete the ecosystem of real estate within any of the neighborhoods that we invest in. We are very focused in Long Island City with 6 or 7 different projects active in the mid-size range. We also have a full-service CM construction management firm, the Vorea Construction Companies. That is a subsidiary of Vorea. We marry best-in-class technology with best-in-class management on the non-union side. And in addition, we also have a company called Igloo, which is a Igloo NYC. It's a consulting firm specifically for tenants and makers and young companies that are looking to expand and grow their platform. We're helping them specifically with picking neighborhoods and also their development plan. So we solve all their real estate needs because they're typically experts at making widgets, and we help them navigate through real estate development design and building out their headquarter spaces. Specifically in Long Island City, we are developing on the bottom right of the screen. You'll see the Jackson Avenue Hotel building with Saunders at the base. It's a mixed-use building. The upper floors, like I said, we have Sonder, the hotel operator in. We also, on the second and third floor, have Compass, the real estate brokerage firm. And then at the base, we have retail with some pretty creative uses that we're excited to announce in a couple months. Today is actually our top off day. So our concrete superstructure completes today. So we're pretty excited. And then also on the top left of the page, we are developing a campus in the IBZ section of the Court Square IBZ. So there was a boulder coming out of an abandoned street. We acquired all the sites surrounding the boulder and then did an application with the DOT to turn it into a street seats. It was one of the pilot street seats program where we went in and renovated that street and turned it basically into a park. We'll hopefully be advancing into the Plaza program, and we've been curating all of the uses around that, around 12th Street, even currently in kind of a post-COVID era, which I guess I'll get into a little later.
Good, thank you, Peter. Love that boulder in the middle of the street. That's an interesting feature of that part of Long Island City. So let's bring it back to Jordan and get a little bit more specific on Sven and some of your other activities. The Durst family, your company, has been well known as to really being a very Manhattan-centric company for generations, for over 100 years. Always walk to your development, walk to your real estate. All of a sudden, you're making the giant leap of going across the East River into Queens, into our neighborhood of Long Island City. Maybe even later in the panel, we'll talk about a giant leap to a different state. But let's focus on Queens and Long Island City. What drove the decision-making process after all these years to bring your company into Long Island City? Tell us about that process.
David, you're exactly right. Up until a few years ago, when people would ask us about the Brooklyn, Queens real estate markets, we would respond that we don't speculate in over markets. Seymour Durst, the Douglas Durst father, who ran the firm through the 60s to the early 90s, had a maxim that he wouldn't develop anywhere that wasn't within walking distance of Grand Central Terminal. So what moved the organization, and this was something of an evolution, was we began building residential about 15 years ago. We saw with the development of Hudson Yards and the rebuilding of the Trade Center site that there was a lot of new product coming online in the commercial space, and we wanted to diversify into residential. We are one of the few developers in town, or I shouldn't say few, but a dwindling number of developers in town who build mixed income rental buildings. The economics on that type of product is very challenging. You need a long-term perspective to be able to build that product because initial returns are quite conservative. But the Durst family and their approach, they have the luxury of being able to be more concerned about how an asset performs in year 20 than it does in year 2. We were nosing around Queens and Brooklyn for a long time. Our first project was out in Astoria. We see tremendous growth and tremendous value out there, especially on the waterfront. We've always been drawn to the waterfront. We think that's where people really like to be. People enjoy the big views and vistas and the calming effects of being on the water. And our first project is an ambitious 7-building, 2,100 unit campus on the waterfront of the Hallett's Peninsula. Building Hallett's 10 is complete. It's a 404 unit mixed income building. It's doing very well. The the asset has stabilized during COVID, and their plans for two 100% affordable projects on the neighboring Astoria Houses campus. We have a great partnership with the Astoria Houses, and they're very much looking forward to the development of those two buildings. And then in the future, we'll build another 4 waterfront mixed income buildings with absolutely stunning views of the East River and Manhattan skyline, and fabulous direct ferry connections along the East River waterfront, and a 4-minute ferry ride to the Upper East Side. The site we have in Long Island City, Sven, we bought a distressed asset. We're very conservative when it comes to land acquisition. So we know we can't compete on land price with condo developers. We just don't have the returns to those prices worthwhile for us. So we were able to acquire this site at a great price, and we set about building a very ambitious project there. I walked the site last week up on the 60th floor. As you might imagine, the views are incredible, 360 degrees from lower Manhattan, to the LaGuardia Airport and every point in between. We're really excited about the project, and there's a number of challenges with it, given not only what we're going through coming out of COVID, or hopefully coming out of COVID, I should say, and some of the statutory requirements on the mixed on the income restricted units. So it's a great project, and we really look forward to becoming more active members of the Long Island City partnership and community.
Well, we welcome your overseas investment opportunity to our fair part of the borough. It's a beautiful building, and I look forward to going up that elevator and taking a peek at that view. It's probably spectacular. Henry, move on to you. Same thing. You've been a proud member of the New York City, specifically the Manhattan office community. You have a huge swath of space right across the Queensboro Bridge from us, and after a long time in Manhattan in a bunch of different buildings, you took the leap to come across the East River, overseas, as Jordan puts it, and put a really big mark on a beautiful building on Queens Plaza. And so what took you here? What took you so long? I guess one question. And how has your experience been? Take us through your decision-making process to come to Long Island City.
All right. Thank you. So, the mindset, as Jordan mentioned, the mindset is very much two-pronged. We have a very large presence in Manhattan, where the company was started by Estee herself, many, many years ago. And we have a large presence out in Melville, Long Island, where we've been for 50 years. So you had that part out there in Melville, then you had all this presence in Manhattan. It was interesting that we started looking in Long Island City, when we started zeroing in, we started bringing in some of the senior leadership on tours. At first they came in their private cars and et cetera, but including the Lauders. But then they started getting around to, hey, the subway gets us right there. And so that sort of started moving the needle a little bit. We needed to be in somewhere. We had 8 IT is what drove the global IT is what drove this, and we were in 8 locations, and we needed to consolidate into where we ended up consolidating global IT into Long Island City and still in Melville. And so we needed a place where we could attract talent. We had needed a good location, good transportation, where we could accommodate a large portion of our population, good economics, a good real estate deal. That's and opportunity for growth. So there were other areas. There were even states that were wooing us, but we're a New York company, New York State company. So and the strong ownership of your organization and the partnership and the bid with Liz being a known leader, all of that attracted us, and we ended up working on the initial transaction for IT, and then taking another floor and then taking more space. So now we are really looking forward to being an integral part of the community. So with many things that attracted us, but again, it's the economics, the strong environment, the transportation, the ability to attract quality employees. So.
And how has your experience been so far? What are the employees saying to you? Any employees moving to Long Island City for their residences? What's the feedback so far?
I think that hasn't. I don't know how much that has happened yet, because people are still. We haven't been there all that long, but they've been so receptive to the area, and even those that were saying, well, so we have people that live here, we have people that live here, and I'd get a call from HR, and they've all come around. They love the environment, and we built to a pretty high standard, so our space is very nice. The building is very nice, and they can come in from Long Island, they come in from the city, from Brooklyn, from New Jersey. So it's been very positive, and they like the fact that they have the gym, and we have the conference facilities, and so really it's been very, very positive. So we're very happy.
Good. I'm very glad to hear that. So one of my favorite parts of this panel every year is getting to explore new retailers that are coming to Long Island City. I had the good fortune of going to your East Village location and trying your deconstructed latte, which was a wonderful experience, and really slowed down the process. Instead of taking a 2-minute coffee, it was a 10-minute coffee, and it was actually a really revelatory experience in terms of how seriously you take the coffee business. Tell us again about your process of coming to Long Island City, and specifically on the unique portion of Long Island City that you chose to locate in.
Yeah, so like you mentioned, thanks for stopping by the East Village location. Our location started off like really tiny, and with experience that you have to sit down and have your coffee for that location, sometimes we have way too many lines are too long, waiting times are too long, so we decided to expand a little bit. So the second location that we picked is actually slightly bigger. We thought it would be sufficient to have people coming in and still sit down and have coffee. And then we started attracting a little bit more people other than just people consumer. We started having people who want to learn a little bit more about coffee, and also literally just gather and do a lot of cupping events. So the one thing that really attracted us to this part of Long Island City, which is right by Borden, is actually the space. We have always wanted to roast our own coffee and provide a space for the community to come together and discuss about coffee, learn about coffee. So it's really hard to find a space that can accommodate all the needs that we want right now. We have space, and on top of it, it's so diverse. It is also really accessible. How we learn is 5 minutes from the Grand Central Terminal. So as a school, especially the only certified school in your state, we have a lot of people just traveling across the country just to be certified on certain barista skill. So when it is so close to the airport and it's also really accessible from the city, we can actually help them navigate alongside a lot more. So space is definitely one thing that makes me feel like, hey, I'm really comfortable venturing to Long Island City. It's beautiful. When you're coming to class in the morning, after class, you can get out there, see the skyline, enjoy the neighborhood a little bit, all types of cuisines. It's also a really nice way to introduce people to the culture of New York City, Queens, and how beautiful this area is. So one thing about that. Second thing is we're also picking industrial area just because we want to roast coffee. A lot of times being in an industrial area, it helps to block a lot of how to put it, distraction. So you can really focus on producing your product. At the same time, you can just pass around. In coffee industry, we have a few modules that we actually want to focus on, be it brewing, barista, we have sensory and roasting. How can we incorporate all this together in the same school so people don't have to go to different places? I remember I have to get certified myself. I have to travel all the way to Florida because that's the closest. And time-wise is really hard because not all instructors can be in a location at the same time to do one module. So we're lucky, both Kalina and I, we're both certified, so we can actually do classes every month. certified classes, and we can do it at our own pace, and you can do it in one location where it's so accessible to everywhere. So when we talk about it and we discuss, we decided that this is really the place that we want to be. Yeah.
We are so glad that you're here. If nothing else, we're stopping people from having to go to Florida for any reason. But I look forward to taking a class there, because I cannot make a decent cup of coffee myself. So I look forward to learning from you.
Oh, thank you.
Peter, you have served by my side on the partnership board for years. You are an innovator. You're super creative. Tell us a little bit about the Jackson Avenue project. I haven't had a chance to walk through your partnership, your tenancy there. What brought you to that idea? You guys have explored so many different property types. Why that there?
Yeah, I think it falls back to our 2013, 2014 thesis on Long Island City. We moved in 2015 from Northside Williamsburg as an operator into Long Island City. So we've been investing, I'd say, since 2010 in Long Island City on various projects, and then we really did a deep dive into the neighborhood, trying to explore where we could be most impactful. And, we identified Queens Plaza, Court Square, and Hunters Point as kind of our little investment triangle, giving its proximity to transit and just all the density of residential. And, we really believe in a 5-borough economy. And I felt like Long Island City was like staring us in the face as to this great opportunity. It had, you've all heard, all the feedback just now, Liz's introduction, why LIC is great. And those are real reasons, the access to talent, access to transportation, a depth of residential density, and a lot of it is new housing stock. And when you start analyzing the population and, and the transportation, and you see the first-time associates that are, going into the city in Midtown, and what business sectors that is, and their credit scores and who they are as an end consumer and as a resident. I mean, I think it's daunting. The data is pretty amazing. So we kind of self-proclaim ourselves as like a little real estate think tank. We use a lot of data behind how we make our individual decisions. And I think Long Island City kind of checks every single box and then some, and it's pretty amazing. So what we identified was a commercial-based acquisition strategy to really focus on retail, hospitality, and office. And we wanted to do that, like I said, in our investment triangle. So we picked the Court Square IBZ, we picked Jackson Avenue, and then we also picked a location on Borden, really at the intersection of where Borden, Vernon, and Jackson Avenue all meet. So that was kind of our 3 outliers. And then off the back of that, we started just, buying around that. So Jackson Avenue, we teamed up with Sonder, which is like a professional kind of Airbnb hotel operator. They've really expanded. They had a lot of momentum, so we work with them directly to help them through our Igloo platform really solve for what the perfect ground up hotel for their uses. So we reverse engineered and designed our building to match kind of their style and what they needed, and really worked with them and their algorithms to figure out the best combination for studio hotel suites to 2-bedroom hotel suites. And we then did our fallback positions and made sure it worked for us and came up with a deal. And now that's, like I said, it was financed last year. We're out of the ground now. We're topping off today. And then we met with, the Compass Realty, and they also identified how great Long Island City was, and they wanted a bit of a Long Island City headquarters space. So we worked with them to help kind of design, build this amazing office on the 2nd and 3rd floor of our building with outdoor space. And, teaming up with Sonder, we got the ability to really control and collaborate on what we wanted the lobby of the hotel to feel like. And, so we have these like great creative restaurant tenants that we haven't announced yet, but they really flank the entrance to, the building. And, Compass and Sonder tenants are going to commingle through that space. There's going to be, outdoor space on the roof, outdoor space on the 2nd floor. And We really are very, very excited about it. And as we started developing that deal, a lot of stuff around us has developed, as you all may know, right? We have the life sciences building across the street from us on Pearson. I think the Walkoff family is about to finish, their 1,000-unit rental building on the other side of the elevated train. But we love that location. We love retail on Jackson, and I think it's continually maturing from national type tenants to local tenants. And I think that there's like this great buzz of the neighborhood. And I think that COVID, a lot of us had to stay home, right? And the residents of Long Island City stayed in Long Island City, and there's this like newfound pride of neighborhood that I'm seeing day in and day out, walking on the streets, talking here. I mean, again, we're a tenant here. Our headquarters space is located here across the street from MoMA PS1. And, we're just excited at the sentiment. And the other project that I mentioned earlier is the one on 12th Street, where, we did a deal with the New York Times. So the New York Times came into Long Island City. It was, their first, I guess, satellite office transaction into the borough, not into the borough, but into Long Island City. And then they moved the wire cutter here. So the wire cutter coupled with the, the street seats application and really beautifying that street allowed us to acquire the other sites. And even post-COVID, I think we signed 6 lease transactions at record-breaking retail numbers in that IBZ as a way to really drive culture and drive action to the IBZ, right? So we, you did the poll before, and live, work, play, right, was the #1 checkbox. So we believe that since 2015. I mean, we really try to strive in, if you want to spark life into the IBZ, and you want people, manufacturers, makers, essential services to be working, they need a place to eat, they need a place to have coffee, they need a place to hang out. And, we brought that element to the IBZ to help round it out. And didn't stop there. We also are fueling it with office tenants and other makers, and really helping them kind of make a home and grow their roots within this location, which I think is already happening.
Yeah, Peter. So first of all, congratulations on the topping out. We at the Forge, a couple blocks away from you, are hungry for new restaurants. So I can't wait. You piqued our interest with who the restaurants might be on the ground floor. So all of our Forge tenants are going to be all excited about walking a couple blocks south to your new creation. You did start hitting on the next question, which is the obvious elephant in the room of what happens post-COVID to our wonderful neighborhood. And it almost strikes me post 9/11 when I walked around Manhattan and everybody looked at each other, and we didn't have masks on at that point in time, but everybody looked at each other like we had been through something together. And it was horrific and it was terrible, but we were all in it together. And we felt like as New Yorkers, we were going to come out the other side and be stronger. And lo and behold, post 9/11, we really were and are. Post-COVID, with the masks on, as I walk around Long Island City and I see the begonias and the tree pits planted by the bid, I am starting to feel that way again. I actually feel better in Long Island City than I do in Midtown Manhattan. There is much more life on the streets. I think it gets back to the poll results of the live, work, play combination that we have in Long Island City, that a mixed-use neighborhood can recover much quicker than an office-only neighborhood. And actually, that's one of the real strengths of our neighborhood. Jordan, kind of starting with you on the COVID reality as a real estate developer, you're in the ground, you're putting a significant amount of money into these projects. What kind of start in March and bring us to September. What has your reaction been to COVID? How has it affected construction? How has it affected your pro forma in the market, your financing? Can you kind of talk a little bit about how the Sven in a post-COVID world reacts?
Sure. I mean, this is definitely, COVID is definitely a gut punch in a way that feels different than the 9/11 did, than the Great Recession did, and our recovery is certainly is slower than from those events. But fundamentally, we are extremely bullish on New York City's future, on Long Island City's future. Work from home is a good concept. Everybody demonstrated that companies, including ours, which didn't have a work from home policy for obvious reasons, could make that transition. But now as we've been at it for a while, and also as we've transitioned back into the office, it's clear that there are limitations of work from home. Yes, you can maintain, but can you thrive? Can you grow? And what happens when other companies in your space and your competitors are back in the office? Are they going to be able to outperform you? And we think the answer to that is yes. So, well, in the short term, this is a challenging moment for our city and the real estate market. Fundamentally, we believe that New York is still the global epicenter of commerce and industry and fashion and media, and it will, regain its rightful place. On the construction side of things, it's been an interesting process because we've been forced, for good reason, to think about how to make our buildings COVID safe, and we've done that, and all the people on the panel who operate space have gone through the protocols of social distancing and installation of Purell and all the things we have to do to keep people safe and healthy in the near term. We've started thinking about this a little bit more holistically, in that if you look at COVID and you look at the populations that it attacks most vociferously, it's people who are less affluent, it's people of color, it's people who are not as well as the rest of the population. And it's made us sort of double down on the concept of creating places where people work and live that are healthy, that are productive, where people are happy, because there's actual science behind getting enough sleep and having access to fresh and clean air and working in a place where there's daylight and views and having a stronger immune system and being more resistant to a virus like COVID-19. So we think our contribution to fighting this crisis is to create space where people have ample amounts of fresh and clean air, that they have a work environment where the materials don't off-gas, that there's plenty of daylight, and that the space itself is invigorating and productive. And I think that there's probably going to start to be a shift in the conversation from this, like, how much Purell per square foot are we providing at the moment, which is important, and we're making sure that we're covering everything in Purell, to what can we do to make sure that people are healthier and less susceptible to viruses like COVID.
Some on the retail front, it's a daunting prospect to bring people into your space, to be serving food, drink, and school. I mean, you are touching so many hot button parts of the COVID pandemic psyche. How have you, first of all, what is open right now? How have you tried to adjust your business to weather this storm?
To begin, I think I need to say it's almost like a roller coaster. It's like, or driving super high speed on a Ferrari. It's like you need to learn how to maneuver like literally a few seconds ahead. So all our stores are open right now. Manhattan, Brooklyn, Long Island City. Initially when, like David, I couldn't relate with you more when you say that when you go out to the street and you feel the connection, like people say like, oh, you've been through this all together. So this is exactly how we feel with our regulars who's in our store. People who come every day prior to our shutdown, they are like, what am I gonna do? Like, you're the only thing that feels normal for me, like to get a cup of coffee and you have to shut for let's say, an amount of time. So we kept in touch, and we did something online where we get connected to all our regulars to tell them to go to Instagram and see us every day from 12:30 to sometime, and we teach them how to make coffee because we see a huge demand in like buying coffee and learn how to make coffee at home. So most of our business, when we don't have our retail storefront, we became e-commerce. So we're lucky that we roast our own coffee. We're lucky that we can actually teach people how to do coffee online. In terms of retail right now, since everything is open up, it's fairly slow. People are slowly coming in. With outdoor seating, it's a lot better. And Long Island City is surprising for me is we're getting a lot more people coming in and hang out just because it's a mixed use community. We have an outdoor, people have been bringing their fur babies, and then like work from home, drink a cup of coffee. So all these are very, very motivating. It makes me feel optimistic about what's going to happen in the next few months. Obviously, we have to be a little bit more careful because people are still coming in. So all the PPE, everyone in this everyone is like super well prepared, sanitized, gloves on, and we're also providing masks for people who don't have it, who is walking on the street. So I think it's all about like helping each other to go through this weird times or having a new norm. Baristas wise, staff wise, everyone is like a little bit more comfortable coming in and talk to people as well, or meeting people. So from initially when we just have really short window where we're open to slowly expanding our hours. So now in East Village and Brooklyn, even Long Island City, we're all to 3 o'clock, and we open at 8. So the hours are longer. People can spend more time getting their coffee. I am pretty hopeful about the 25% opening capacity end of this month, but we're also going to take it slow and see like if anything, people are not coming into the store to order right now in both other locations, but people are coming into the store in Long Island City to order because our storefront compared to the door is rather far. But everyone has been very respectful, coming in, like checking in on us and see, hey, how you guys doing? So we're okay. We're getting there. Yeah.
One of the beautiful things, I know you're new to Long Island City, but it's one of the beautiful things about Long Island City. Peter, I think you've seen it as well. This community really does have a special way of bonding to each other. And it's not just the office guys separate from the residential guys, separate from the retail. I mean, it's just everybody has this common goal of really trying to bond together and to first protect the neighborhood, to advance the neighborhood. And the partnership has done an amazing job of keeping us all together as the glue.
Yeah, I'm going to walk over and have a cup of coffee a little later. So I'll see you in a little bit. Yeah.
I expect to see a big crowd of everybody on this call today. Peter, you want to talk about how COVID has affected you've got a contracting business, you're an owner, you're a tenant, you're an employer. How have you been weathering the storm?
Yeah, weathering. I would start by saying that it was certainly a challenge, and I think that we were kind of lucky that we were in the construction business because that got us like a real fast forward look at logistics and how to make it work, and that really was a phenomenal education process for us. For that, we were then able to really translate up to the rest of our organization and also to our tenants and our partnerships. So, really understanding how to, essential services, how construction can move forward, what the distancing would be on site, what those protocols are. We are, as a company, pretty SOP heavy. So, once we were working remotely, we all, got on together as a leadership team to really figure it out and translate it up. And I think we've been pretty successful. And we're excited about the new norm and the progressive. I mean, I think there's a lot of lessons that we learned in maybe some hygiene and some other stuff that I think was awesome. But furthermore, I think one of the big takeaways was, you hear growing up that if you're a landlord, or a tenant, a tenant is a partner with the landlord, right? The landlord's his partner or her partner or whatever. And we lived that pre-COVID, and we really try to see all of our subleases and our tenants as our partners. And we were kind of called to the carpet during COVID to really kind of put our money where our mouth is. And it was a complete collaborative discussion. It was never about rent abatement. It was always about the tenant's success and what we could do to give our network to the tenant's network. How could we make them successful, whether filling out the PPP applications for them or helping them with an EIDL loan. I mean, once we figured it out for ourselves, we were able to really figure it out for the extension of our network and try to be as proactive as possible. One of the tenants on 12th Street, we showed up with more outdoor seats. We helped them with the, restaurant open application. There was kind of like no end in sight as to how much we would invest in them for their success. Because at the end of the day, that's what it's about for us as a landlord, right? If our tenants are successful, we will be successful, right? It's inherent in how they pay rent, right? It's that simple. And I'd say our biggest takeaway was it really accelerated those conversations and that bond between us and our tenants and our partnerships. And that extended also to our subcontractors on the CM side, helping the subcontractors, giving the subcontractors a protocol. On the non-union side, a lot of these guys don't have the back office or, the institutional pedigree to like figure out, what we're on the front lines figuring out. So I think horizontal, down, up, I mean, we were just all bonding together as a team, trying to figure out how to be successful. And I think that that really opened up lines of communication that either didn't exist before or people didn't think were possible. And now coming, hopefully eventually out of COVID, I think it's going to make for a stronger New York and a stronger business population, both on the real estate side and on the tenant side. And just like I said, this 5-borough economy and everything else. I mean, we are long New York, and we're especially long Long Island City. And I think that there's no doubt, given all of the fundamentals that you're hearing today. I mean, think about the institutional caliber of investors in Long Island City today than 10 years ago. I mean, the Durst Organization, perfect example. Estee Lauder. I mean, we're right on the panel. Cutting edge, coffee maker. I mean, it's amazing, right? Think about this like motley crew of people showing up, and I think that LIC's future is nothing short of going to be extremely successful.
I like the motley crew reference.
Yeah.
Henry, you represent the biggest company with the most global reach on this panel. Can you talk a little bit about the difference? I know every time I talk to you, sometime you're in China, sometime you're in Singapore. Can you talk a little bit about the difference between locations, Long Island City, Manhattan, Asia? Your Asian office you were on early COVID, your Long Island City office a little bit later. You've got offices that are now peaking. How has Estee Lauder been weathering this pandemic?
So thank you. So overall, we're bullish. We're very bullish on and positive as a company, and we have a long-term view, and that just comes from the Lauder family and throughout senior management and into the entire organization. So we're positive. This whole workplace environment is undergoing change. It's evolving. I speak to people at other companies, to real estate brokers. They're all saying, all the companies are struggling, wrestling with this. But I do know that, our company is very collaborative. We have 30 brands. We have all our different functions. We have marketing. We have all these different groups, and they need to engage with each other. So we're starting to come back into the offices, and that's been kind of part of our kind of the rich history of the company, is always looking forward, thinking, and expanding. Now, as far as the world, it's interesting. I'm working on so for New York City again. We're bullish, and this is our home, and whether it be Melville or Long Island City or Manhattan, we're still gung ho. So as far as the world, it ebbs and flows, because Latin America is having a tough time right now, and then but China, APAC, which is a big part of our future growth, is coming back. Well, parts of it, like China, Japan, keeps going in and out of problems. But I firmly believe that we'll come out of this, and I think the company does, and that we will continue to grow globally. And we've been pretty quick. I have been impressed that we've pivoted very quickly. For instance, our we were poised. Our online business has just zoomed. While our travel retail may have gone down a bit and is now coming back, our online business is done really well, and parts of the world are doing very well as well. So you know, and as far as the other thing I've been proud of the company is that we really have put a great focus on the employee safety, and we've also and in this time of social issues, we've also done a lot to for donations, employee relief funds. We were in the forefront of hand sanitizer production, our charitable foundation. So we as a company are looking forward to the long term, and then again around the world it ebbs and flows, but we continue our footprint. So.
So Jordan, we hinted at this earlier, but you crossing the river may have broken barriers for the Durst organization to even cross into a different state. I know you have a fairly large development site that's just been awarded to you on the Philadelphia waterfront on the Delaware River, a site where the Durst organization beat out even the 76ers to build a basketball arena. Can you talk a little bit about, this is not about Philadelphia, but a little bit about the process of getting a large project approved in New York City, Long Island City specifically, and without identifying the projects, versus going outside the city into a different community like Philadelphia?
Sure, I'll use the Philadelphia project as a way to talk about development in New York City. We were just awarded a very large 7-acre site on the Philadelphia Delaware River waterfront. We're going to invest $2.2 billion over the next decade and build a big mixed use project there, hotel, retail. We're not doing that in New York City at the moment. The ULURP process, which is something that we have, availed ourselves of in the past, is really broken in New York. And as progressive as New York City is, I feel like sometimes we're in like a time warp. If you look at the two hot button projects that are going through ULURP or were talked about in the last few weeks, you've got Industry City, which is being undermined by Carlos Menchaca, and that's a great opportunity to create a tremendous amount of new jobs. The Amazon 2.0 site that just got kiboshed by the city, and it's we've got close to 20% unemployment in New York City. We really need to do whatever we can to help restart the economy. It would seem to me that creating all of these jobs and getting this economic engine back up and running would be first and foremost in our elected officials' minds. But it's as if we're still like a year ago, and the city is got an unemployment rate of 4%, and we're it's like we haven't adapted to this new reality. The generals are fighting the last war, and it's really disappointing. If New York is going to come out of this, we have to demonstrate some flexibility and some ambition, and not sort of get ourselves stuck in these sort of fights of the past. It's a new reality, and we got to get people back to work.
You're so right. If there's any time that the real estate industry should be welcomed by the city officials, it should be in a post-pandemic or during a pandemic world where there is so much employment, there is so much economic development, so much tax revenue that can come out of any of these projects. The Sven, even the coffee project, Vorea is doing, what Estee Lauder is doing. I mean, think about the tax revenue that the four of you represent for the city. When tax revenue is so decreased and you have a war between Washington and New York, it's just, this should be the time we should all be getting together and helping through city planning, through zoning, through reinventing ULURP. You're so right, Jordan. Peter, you have a view on that?
Yeah, I have something to say. I think Jordan, you brought it up in your last statement related to competition. I think there's no doubt that the ULURP process is an important one, and we want to see the New York economy spark and open up again. But it's not just one thing that's going to do it, right? It's banding together, and it's the momentum kind of across the board. And we're seeing as the economy starts opening up and people start coming back into the office, I think Labor Day was a real milestone. New York historically is pretty sleepy in August, and then people try to start hitting their numbers at the end of the year to make the end of the year and then set up for 2021. And I really see that happening. I mean, I don't know about everyone on the phone here or the people listening in, but I was busy in August, but I've been swamped post Labor Day with the amount of brokers calling me and following up for different deals. And I think that, people are coming to work, and maybe it's 10% of the population, 5% of the population, whatever that is. I think as they start coming back into the office, they see the efficiencies associated with working in the office. That then creates this competition. And I think, as you start reading these headlines, we're living through our own version of, Pepsi-Cola, Coca-Cola wars. So, like you mentioned earlier, JP Morgan Chase is opening back up. Well, Citibank isn't going to let them have a crazy foothold. It works kind of cross-platform, right? So we know that the tech announcements from Facebook, Google, Amazon, TikTok, those are all New York City long projections. So those employers are here, right? And they're investing in Long Island, in New York City, I should say. And I think that momentum is going to kind of keep it going. And then the universities also compete, and the contractors also compete. And that competition is hopefully, a healthy version of capitalism, right? Socially conscious capitalism. There's nothing wrong with that. And, we'll see it really open up our economy. But then I agree with you that we really need strong leadership. If New York needs anything today, it's as strong leadership that's level-headed, problem solving, that really focuses on safety and helping us and our city flourish. And I think that is at every level of leadership within our government. And it's a call to them saying, hey, help us out, and let's all band together and get out of it together. And I think we have all the fundamentals. I mean, New York, when you think of the depth of New York City, I mean, it's the greatest city in the world.
I think the four of us certainly agree with that. So we're going to move on to the Q&A portion that is not coming from me. So we had a couple of pre-submitted questions, and if you have any questions, please feel free to use the box on your screen. Any one of you in the audience. First question actually came from our friends at Rebney, who is one of our co-sponsors of today's event, and really has done a banner job. I've been on more Rebney Zooms than I can care to even count over the last 6 months, but they've done a great job, neighborhood by neighborhood, project type by project type, of keeping us all informed and together. So their question is, we all care deeply about Long Island City, Queens, and New York, but the pandemic has brought to the forefront new challenges that require innovative solutions. What do you think is the one most important idea that can be executed to help our city recover from COVID-19 and will instill confidence in New Yorkers that our city is still the greatest place in the world to live and do business? Who wants to try that one?
I'll give it a try. I mean, that's a great question, and I think what it really comes down to is agility, and being able to adapt to the challenges that are coming our way. And you've seen it. You've seen, outdoor dining is a perfect example. Like, I mean, we revolutionized the way that restaurants operate in this city virtually overnight. And the streets, opening up the street, closing the streets to vehicular traffic, allowing pedestrians to take over that space. That's been terrific. So some aspects have been really good. The schools are not projecting flexibility and agility at this moment, unfortunately. I think that's a missed opportunity and something that needs to be fixed. But I think that's the skill, is that agility, because things are coming at us quickly, and massive change comes overnight, and we really have to be able to adapt to it.
Yeah, I would agree with that sentiment, and I don't, if I had to pick the one thing, I would, COVID has been, right, this natural, the ultimate accelerator. And I think that there's, positive components of that acceleration. And I think you're right? Focusing on being a speedboat versus a cruise ship matters a lot, and reacting. And I think that leadership fueling the momentum. There's like this natural momentum that's showing up. So when we can identify as a community, a business community, a local neighborhood, the momentum of positive change, I think us and our, elected officials need to help us fuel that momentum, because it compounds on itself. It's addictive. It's a virus of itself, and it will help us make our way out of where we are today for sure. So my one thing is helping accelerate positive momentum.
Well, so this is Henry. So I would say, the leadership, obviously, but keeping the pedal down on attracting top talent, just like we came to Long Island City because it's a place where there's technology and we could attract that type of talent. Having that, so that's why I think that Long Island City has the attributes for that, because of the live work and the environment and all the amenities. So because if you don't have the top talent that's leaving, then you have a problem. So that would be my focus.
As far as the retail side, I think for us, it's important how we can instill confidence back to the consumer. So for retail, I think it's our responsibility to be really responsible operators, like how we have to keep following the hygiene process, and then like let people know that, hey, it is okay. We are going to follow all the rules and make sure that everyone feels safe. So I think instilling confidence with the public on how it will be okay to start going out and slowly proceed to doing things regular, like normal procedure, that will be a big part of the retail side. Like we have to be very responsible retailers.
Right. No, those are four great answers. My answer would be to go back to work. The summer of hanging out in your Hamptons house or wherever you're spending the summer, it's starting to get cold outside. The leaves are starting to change. Go back to your office. Go back and enjoy your coworkers and the water cooler talk. And what did I watch on Netflix the other night? And the young people in your organizations that are dying for staffing opportunities and for mentorship, and none of that is happening on Zoom. There is something very different about making eye contact and being in an office environment from 6 feet away and being respectful and hygienic. And the first time you see your doorman, you see your security guard, you go out and you get a cup of coffee at your local coffee shop and you see your barista, it will make you feel amazing. I've done it. I've been going in 1 to 2 days a week for the last couple of months, and I tell you, it is totally worthwhile. So while you think you're comfortable at home, please go back to the office. Second question, Robert Altman, one of our board members. I've been seeing a lot of businesses hesitating to lease during COVID and now even going entirely remote. In the long run, I do not think this is feasible, but how do you see COVID impacting space needs over the next decade? I think he's talking about the office space market.
I guess that's us. The pace is starting to pick up. I mean, there's no doubt COVID froze the market to a large extent. I mean, it's very difficult to make, large real estate decisions when there's just a tremendous amount of flux in the market. But, I think that, there's, you have to look at this as, discrete moments in time. Like right now, we're in the midst of, this very, very transitional moment as we, are hoping to maintain the strides we've made against the virus, keep the infection rate down, and, just sort of keep everything status quo. At some point, hopefully sooner rather than later, we will emerge from this. There will be a vaccine. There will be herd immunity. And then I think, there's no reason that the market shouldn't accelerate at that point. At this discrete moment in time, everybody's talking about work from home because that makes, the most sense when, you have to socially distance. But, when we get over this hump, we expect the, people to jump back in.
Yeah, Jordan, I would agree. I mean, working remotely works when everybody's working remotely.
Yeah.
But when that doesn't happen, you're going to see, you know, the transition back. And I think what this does, again, I'm going to keep using it, you know, ultimate accelerator, but I think that a lot of office tenants, you know, now are looking at maybe the horizontal office space in a different way, right? A warehouse building, you know, before they wanted to be in a, you know, 15-story office building or 30-story office building, have their own floor. Now they may want, you know, their own 10, 20,000 square foot warehouse that gets converted and feels like more of a headquarters space, and they can control entry in and out. They can control, you know, the access to the building, and also, like, you know, it's a better quality of life with skylights and views and whatnot. And I think that the human scale approach to officing is what you're going to see. It started happening, you know, pre-COVID. And I think, you know, it's going to feel like New York potentially, especially the boroughs, they're going to really receive this because they have their IBZs, right? Those IBZs have a, you know, an office stock and a warehouse stock that's easily convertible. It's affordable. The REIT benefits are still in place. So if you relocate out of Manhattan, you're going to get that tax credit. And I think it's huge. And we're seeing it now. We're in the middle of several of those transactions, like I said. And yeah, it's from small business, but, you know, small business has a lot of definitions. And, you know, I think companies are going to be looking at, like I said, more of a horizontal expansion into the boroughs. And I think Long Island City is completely poised to take advantage of that, whether through their, you know, the main hubs or in the outskirts of, you know, the factory district or, you know, the IBZs and that area. So, you know, I see that happening. I mean, it's happening now.
I just add one thing to Peter's remarks is we're also seeing users looking at the quality of this space, just as Peter said. You know, there's a lot more interest in outdoor space, right? You know, that's something that tenants see as you know, really important for their workers. We're seeing people shying away from the scourge of bench seating. You know, which is a great economic solution, but it turns out having people piled on top of each other, even pre-COVID, isn't the best way to work, you know, and really starting to think about what creating a space for their workers where people are healthy and productive. And so I think that there's a distinct possibility that the office market emerges even stronger because people will realize the benefits of having a little bit more breathing room and elbow room in the space that they let.
Yeah, Jordan, I think it goes back to your discussion about quality of life in your residential buildings. And now I think quality of life for the office employee is at the forefront of every employer's mind. How can I make my employees comfortable? How can I help them thrive? And how can I, you know, make them the best version of themselves without having, you know, anxiety or concern related to the workplace? So that is a problem. And I think it's what they're focused on to solve. And maybe that's the remnant, you know, post-COVID that, you know, is part of change, you know, is like these workspaces are, you know, better than they were, you know, coming out of this.
Question.
There's no question that it's going to, that there's been a freeze on some movement of further office leasing, but I think I agree with that we're going to look at ways to make the space better. I will make a comment that's apart because you'd asked before about globally. As far as warehouse and distribution and those type, there are a lot of markets that are still very strong in that. So just a note about that, but that's different than the office environment because we do a lot of that kind of work as well.
Right. From John Weirweiss, this is to Jordan. When do you expect to start leasing at the Sven, and how do you see the market at that time versus pre-COVID rent levels?
So we're expecting to start leasing to start operating. People start moving in the end of 2021. So our marketing campaign, you know, begin about 6 months before that being a rental. You know, we don't quite know what the rents are going to be. You know, it's a good question. I'll tell you one of the challenges. It's a 70-30 building. 30% of the units are income restricted. The 130% AMI units. We're starting to see the income restricted units, those rents, scrape up against the market rate rents. So that's a challenge for us. People even at a little bit of a discount, people are shying away from going through the process of applying for income restricted units. Even at a modest discount, it's a different market than people at 40 and 50% of AMI, and it's a challenge that I think is going to be across the city, because as the market softens, which it has, rents come down. Those high AMIs are going to start to scrape up against the market rate, and it's going to make it's going to be a problem for the financing model of these mixed income buildings, which is really the lifeblood of New York City is to have economic diversity, not just in neighborhoods but in buildings as well.
Peter, you have a thought on how office rents or retail rents in the neighborhood have changed over the last 6 months?
Yeah, I do. I think that, like I said before, the people are going to get a bit more scrappy than they were before, right? To make it all work. And I think that Long Island City is a great opportunity for companies that are relocating and companies that are here to, that also want kind of to explore in that growth. And I think that LIC has always been affordable on the office side. It's always been a discount to Midtown. And I think that as Midtown figures out how to adjust its office market and its office market rents, LIC is not only more affordable, but you also get REIT benefits to move here. So when you couple those two together, I mean, I think it's a massive benefit. And we've, like I said, we're partners with our tenants. So I would solve the REIT application process for the tenant, whether they wanted to do it or not, to help them and show them the value to get the best possible terms and set them up for success, right? So I think that the office market in LIC will be just fine, especially in areas that are, accessible to transportation, right? Queens Plaza South, Court Square, and Hunters Point. And I have no doubt that those markets have a lot of depth, and I think that infill will continue to come because of those benefits, of being local to that, those neighborhoods. Yeah, that's what I got.
On the residential front, I'll just add at the Forge, we have, and to give you some comfort, Jordan, because I know you got a big investment coming, we have gotten, there has definitely been more vacancy than there has been in the past. But the nice thing is that the tenants that are coming to the building are actually coming from more dense neighborhoods, downtown Brooklyn, lots of neighborhoods in Manhattan where you don't have the opportunity to get out and have the lower density neighborhood like we do in Long Island City. Mm-hmm. There's less people in your elevator bank. There's less people going into the local coffee shop. There is just less density. Less density is what people are looking for right now. Mm-hmm. And by the way, you still are, 2 seconds away from all the transportation you need. I've been city biking back and forth on my way from Manhattan to Long Island City, and there's tons of bikers out there. There's now electric scooters out there. There's there's a lot of great transportation options, and eventually people are just going to come back to the subways, and the 8 subway lines are always going to be the great benefit of Long Island City that they historically have been. And to your point, Peter, for some and her retailers' benefit, all of a sudden the decrease in retail rents is actually going to create a nice opportunity for the local mom and pop retailers that may have shied away from being in Long Island City or Manhattan and New York City in general. All of a sudden they're going to say, oh, it's a half off sale. This is a great opportunity to get my retail business in. And Peter and Jordan, you mentioned that you're partners with your retail tenants, just like we are. We're going to percentage rent with a lot of our restaurants. This is a great opportunity to engage with a landlord who is looking for creative retail establishments to come to the base of their buildings, which helps sell the upstairs. So I know Jordan and Peter, you both have some interesting retail spaces on the base of your buildings. You're going to be overwhelmingly open to new retailers, especially the local people that are looking to make an investment, time and money to come into your building. So I think it's a nice opportunity for retail.
I think you're right, and I think that we didn't talk about life sciences, right? So life sciences in Long Island City is yeah, right, is a massive influx of workforce and talent and whatnot, right? So that coupled with everything else we just described as far as density and whatnot, I think it's going to come down to a very simple supply and demand, model. And you'll see that the amount of retail supply and amount of office supply is not going to, I mean, I don't think it's going to meet the demand. I think the demand for Long Island City is going to be there. And I think for all the reasons we described, and I think that momentum is starting, and into, next year when we're on this panel, I think everybody's going to be blown away at the, exponential growth and depth of LIC and how different it is in 2020, as recent as 2021, let alone what it looks like in the next 5 to 10 years.
Well, that's a great way to end it. One of my favorite numbers is 16, and I look forward to seeing all of you and all of the people that are on this call on the 16th Real Estate Breakfast next year. Liz Luskin would love to see you pop back in and give us some concluding remarks. I really want to thank Jordan, Peter, Sum, and Henry for being really excellent panelists, and I know how hard it is because I'm here too, trying to do this all on GoTo and Zoom. You guys have done a great job, and we really appreciate everything you're doing for our community.
Thank you. Thank you, David.
Yes, yes, thank you. Thank you all. We really appreciate it. It's a fabulous panel. There's going to be another one of those pop-up polls right now so people can connect to the panelists. I want to say that we're very privileged to be joined by our fabulous Assemblywoman, Catherine Nolan, today for the program, and she had a lot of great feedback. She's a terrific leader for Long Island City and for New York State. Thank you, Kathy, for everything that you do and for all the support that you've given the businesses and the community. So again, thank you all to please answer the poll, whoever you'd like to be connected with. That's terrific. There will also be a survey that you will be sent after the webinar. Please do answer that. Again, thank you all so much as panelists for all that you are doing in the neighborhood to make it so interesting and exciting. Thank you very much to David for moderating, as always, so fantastically, and your leadership. Attendees, thank you for making the time to go to webinar with us today, and we hope to see you in person very, very soon. Thank you again to the sponsors and event partners, to the LICP staff, especially General Carla Nigdow, who is always fighting the next war, as Jordan was talking. We do whatever Carla tells us, and we do well. LIC Springs Back, October 2nd through 4th, is going to be a 3-day festival of both virtual and in-person events. Please sign up to participate if you're a business or organization, and please join us for that. LIC Summit, we're pulling together for December 1st. Keep an eye out for that. Again, there will be a survey that you will be redirected to very quick after the webinar. We need your feedback. And as always, please visit us at licqns.com for information, for help, for exciting things to do today and always. So with that, again, I want to thank everybody, thank our great panel, and have a fabulous rest of the day. And may we all be healthy, safe, and back together in person in the near future.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.